think I did respond to somebody about being there for lunch. I think for 2 maybe.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order tonight's East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded. For tonight's meeting, Robert rules will still apply and the meeting will be run by the chairman, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. During the meeting, in order to offer comment, you must be recognized by the chairman. For people utilizing Zoom, you will need to use the chat function to be recognized. Text your name and address. Your request to speak will then be passed on by staff to the chairman to be recognized. Once recognized by the chairman, unmute your microphone, and after speaking, please mute your microphone. East Hempfield Township public comment rules will apply for all public comment. You must be a resident or business owner in the township to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes, or follow the chat procedure already discussed for Zoom attendance. Comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item being discussed, with the exception of public comment for non-agenda items. No action will be taken on any non-agenda item of a non-emergency nature during the public comment period for non-agenda items. All comments should be directed towards the board. We will now move on to our first agenda item, and I ask that you join me by rising for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Up first, we have Police Department notes of recognition.
Sure. As you remember, probably back in January or February, I read a couple of the thank you notes that come into us on a regular basis for the good work that the officers do. So I have a new pile, so I figured it was time to share some more pats on the back that the officers got. Officer Mulligan received a nice card after he stopped a woman for a traffic violation, and she just thanked him for his compassion and professionalism. We had a thank you note for a speed detail that was appreciated by a resident. The sounds of sirens made my heart happy today, knowing that we were out there making her roadway a little safer. Officer Cruz participated in a event over at Landisville Primary Center called Career on Wheels event. Received a nice email from the school district regarding his interaction with about 600 kids. What a great positive role model he is. We had a fairly in-depth arson at a local business in the township that we received a very nice thank you note from the business for professionalism dealing with the arrest and having a quick resolution to the situation. Finally, a note from someone, we were out for a mental health call, and the mother of the 18-year-old girl just expressed her appreciation for the empathy and compassion that the officers gave her daughter during that time of crisis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All good to hear. Any comments from the board?
It's just nice. We wanted to write this procedure to keep recognizing our officers and the work they do. And it's nice that we get a lot of emails. I think our officers are appreciated by the community.
I agree.
Great. Yep.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda are routine items that require very little debate or comment. Has the board had a chance to review the consent agenda, and are there any comments or changes?
I'll just be abstaining.
I just had one comment for golf, but I don't think anyone's here from golf to answer it, so I'll let it slide till the rec meeting next week.
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weaver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries 3-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Little Conestoga Creek Foundation.
My name is Jim Schultz, and I'm here representing the Steinman Foundation and the Little Conestoga Creek Foundation. And those foundations are the sponsors of a stream improvement and walking trail project. And a major portion of that project travels through properties located in East Hempfield Township. So I'm here tonight to request East Hempfield Township's assistance for funding that we're seeking from the Lancaster County Planning Commission. So the project is the Blue-Green Corridor, the Little Conestoga Creek, for which East Hempfield Township has been.
Slide the switch on the side.
It's me.
Yep, okay.
So what we're looking at is this project along the green line and up through here and around here. So this is approximately 3 miles of both stream improvements and also a walking trail. And the commissioners and the staff at East Hempfield Township have been very helpful in the past concerning this project. We've actually put funding into it from the township. We've made significant progress in securing legal easements and funding for both segments, both the stream and for the walking trail. As a matter of fact, we've begun construction of the stream improvements along the Barcrest Apartments located in East Hempfield Township. So we're looking at right in that area. So if you go out to Myriad Avenue, you'll see that we took the guardrail down, started the work. That work has actually been completed. So in the spring or in the next couple of months in the spring and the summer, you'll see the greening, trees starting to bud. So it's underway. So we've received money to do that. We've also received money to, in fact, begin the trail segment, and I'll talk about that in just a second. For the walking trail, we received funding for 2 segments of the trail, namely everything you see here in green. Everything here that you see in green, we received monies from RACP, from both Senator Almond, Senator Martin, and also Representative Sterla were instrumental in getting the funding for that portion of it. We're going to start the trail actually up in this area, a pinkish color. This is the area where there's a vacant daycare center owned by Lancaster General Hospital. East Hempfield Township and the hospital and Mennonite Home were instrumental in us being able to secure the money for that portion of the trail because of the fact that we could get easements from all 3 of those parties. So we're going to be doing this beginning probably next spring. So the first segment of the trail is not going to be the green segment because we don't have all the easements in place. We have the easement in place in this area, so we're going to start this area in the spring. Okay. In turn, there are still 2 segments for which, in terms of the trail, we still need funding, namely West Roseville Road, this area right here in sort of the tannish color, and also here in the Shriner Station area. So we do not have the funding for that. We have the funding again for this segment. We have the funding for the entire green segment. We don't have all the easements that we need for the green segment. That's why we're not going to get started with that right away. But we don't have funding for either Shriner Station Road or for West Roseville Road. The Lancaster County Planning Commission has a funding program called Connections 2040, and funds from that program could fund those 2 segments of West Roseville and Shriner Station. We're seeking $500,000, $500,000 from the Connections 2040 program, and we have a mid-May deadline to indicate our intent to pursue those funds. However, only municipal governments are eligible to submit a letter of intent and the subsequent application. So as a foundation, we can't submit. So what we were told by the staff was come to you. So I went through Cindy Schweitzer to in fact see whether or not there was anything that you guys were going to be doing. And what it came back was, no, you can assist us in this application. So I've discussed the situation with your manager, and that's why I'm here tonight. We asked the Board of Supervisors to also authorize the township manager to submit a letter of intent and the subsequent application on behalf of the Little Conestoga Creek Foundation for the Connections to 2040 funding. We will do all the work as far as submissions are concerned, and any expenditures of funds will come from the foundation and not the township. Funds from the Connections 2040 program would not become available until the end of 2025, which fits our construction schedule. We don't see those two areas being dealt with until 2026. So our request is for the Board of Supervisors to authorize your manager to submit the letter of intent and the application for this $500,000 request of funds from the Connections 2040 program, complete these two segments of the walking trail for the Blue-Green Little Conestoga Creek project.
Any questions or comments from the board on this?
Just appreciate everything you guys have done, and you've kept your word every step of the way. And I support this.
I'd like to congratulate you on the work that you've done, particularly on the Barcrest improvements. I've been down there. I've seen it. It's, you know, a great job, and if I'm sure that's going to be typical of what we're going to see from your organization. And these are the types of things that I believe we as a group want to continue to support. So I'm in favor of this. And again, it's not going to cost. It's not coming out of the township's pocketbook. All we're doing is supporting it, and certainly we want to do that. Thank you.
And I want to just let everybody know publicly that I have a terrific team, and the people who have done most of the work here have been members of my team, and it's really been significant. And the funding, quite frankly, has come from one of the people on that team, a guy by the name of John Cox, former CEO of Crickhill Dairy. He's now retired, and he's the head of the Lancaster County Solid Clean Water Partners, and he's done an incredible job of rounding up the funding for this project.
Awesome.
Great asset to the township and whole area, and you know, down the years in the future. So I think it's great what you're doing.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir. If you could please come and speak into the microphone and state your name and address for us.
My name is Eric Ashley. I live at 1048 West Roseville Road. If you know where I live. You may remember I shared concerns about this trail in the winter. I see the handwriting on the wall. Probably not much point in bringing my concerns up again. As a resident of the township, I do not think there's anybody else in the township that will be more impacted by this project than me and my family. It's going to drastically change our way of life. We've lived there a long time for a reason, and all that's going to go away. So I'm disappointed in what you're about to do here, apparently. But thought I'd share my concerns once again.
Are there any other questions or comments? Any on Zoom? All right. Hearing none, what's your pleasure? Is there a motion to have East Hempfield Township serve as the applicant in grant submission to the County Connections 2040 grant program with funds to be used for the Little Conestoga Creek Foundation Trail System?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I'm going to give that to Mr. Weaver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Up next, we have the Brookside Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program Agreement to administer a grant.
Good evening. I'm Claudia Shank with McNeese, Wallace & Nurick. I'm here this evening on behalf of the developer for the Brookside Development 2701 State Road LLC. We're here with a similar request to the one that you just heard. We're asking the township to serve as an applicant for grant funding. And this funding is coming through the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. The RACP funds, as we refer to them, are awarded. Basically, there's a two-step application process that an applicant goes through. The first is what we call the pre-award application process. That's when the developer itself submits materials about the project to the state's Office of the Budget. If the Office of the Budget selects the project to move forward, then there's a post-award application process. And at that point in time, the developer needs to pair up with a taxing authority, typically the municipality where the project is located, to serve as the applicant for the grant funding. The Brookside project has been awarded $2.5 million in RACP grant funds. And what's before you this evening is an agreement that basically lays out the relationship between the township as the applicant and the developer as the sub-grantee for those funds. Probably the most critical piece of this agreement is, again, that the township would not incur any expense in connection with its role administering the funds. It would be reimbursed by the developer for any legal, engineering, audit, or other expenses that it would incur as a result of serving as the applicant. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Sweet.
I didn't have any, no.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Any on Zoom?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to authorize the signature on grant funding cooperation agreement between 2701 State Road LLC and the township that outlines the administration of a $2.5 million redevelopment assistance capital program grant for construction activities related to the Brookside development?
So moved.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Russell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, PSATs, resolution nominations information.
This is just informational. Nate's our voting delegate. I'm also a voting delegate for LCATS.
Okay.
I don't think any of the recommendations that PSATs put in there to support or oppose are controversial. They gave their justifications for the ones that they recommend for opposing. Most of them were just because the resolutions had some factual errors in them, and they were getting kicked back to the county associations to kind of beef them up. There weren't any real controversial ones that popped out this year.
Okay.
Seemed like a much more tidy process also,
Yeah,
than it's been in previous years. So a lot of good recommendations there. I think most, if not all, of which we can support.
Yeah. It's just get input. If there is none, I'm fine with that, and just give input for Nate and I for our voting. So, okay. And then we're voting for an association. We're not necessarily voting for the township itself. It's more for the big picture and making local government as efficient as possible.
All right. Any comments or questions on this from the audience or Zoom? Okay. So there's no action to be taken here. We're going to move on to old business. Is there any discussion or any items under old business that anyone wants to talk about? Okay. Hearing none. New business? Okay. Hearing none. The Traffic Commission report. We did have a Traffic Commission meeting tonight. We met at 6 o'clock. The meeting lasted until 6:29. Two items that came up for discussion. We did speak about Spring Valley Road, and a decision was made not to put in speed humps at this time and remove this from the traffic study, or excuse me, from the Traffic Commission's reoccurring issues. The second item that came up was new. It was brought to our attention by a concerned resident on Barber Street? Barber Street, possible speeding issue. So that's going to be put into the queue for a traffic assessment. And once we have more information, there'll be more to follow on that item. And that's really essentially all that we discussed at Traffic Commission.
I can just make one addition. It would be that on Spring Valley Road, we decided to continue enforcement and education.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Sorry.
So moving on to next item is public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board, has something to say publicly? Okay, anyone on Zoom? Okay. Hearing none, manager's report.
So you all should have Cindy's manager's report. Most of it was just small updates on projects that continue to be ongoing. We did, since this was sent to you, get further information from PennDOT in reference to the Centerville Road South issues with the Lancaster City water main. They have told us that they believe they're going to be able to repair it internally rather than having to dig it up, as we had discussed. I think Cindy had informed you that there was potential for that roadway to have to be completely dug up. The Water Authority does believe they'll be able to repair it rather than replace it. So that was good news. So that has set that project back a little bit, but they're hoping to be back working in that area by the end of the month or the first week of May. The other piece that I wanted to make sure that we just put out publicly, and it'll go out toward the end of the week on all of our public facing communications. The Church Street project is moving forward with a May 1st closure at the curve between Bowman Road and Knolt Road. So starting May 1st, we'll have a 35-day closure of Church Street from Bowman Road to Knolt Road for the curve realignment and work there. And then beginning June 5th or right around there, an additional closure will occur at the culvert replacement between Hempfield Rec Center and Hempfield Water Authority. And that will create a closure between Stony Battery and Knolt. So those will all be posted publicly so that the local drivers and those visiting are informed of those, but that work is continuing, and then paving and sidewalk will occur in 2024. They do hope to be able to do some of that at the end of this year, but it will all depend on timing for the project. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything that stands out except for the update that Cindy provided on the administrative office hours. Unless there are any concerns from the board with that, our goal would be to move forward with changing those over on May 1st, which gives us the next 2 weeks to publicize those and get those out to the public. The final change that we came up with in order to meet the request of the board to have that evening portion of hours is to have the office hours shortened to 8 to 4 Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, with extended evening hours on Wednesday. And those hours would go till 5:30 p.m. There are group reports on there as well, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have if I have the information to answer them.
So any questions on the manager's report?
Question on Hampton Heath, and this probably be going for Nate. The way this reads here in the report, the developer's not interested in doing anything on behalf of the residents. That's my, and that's because of the cost of the modification.
He didn't really state why. He's just interested in closing out the project at this point, and that would.
So I can shed a little bit of light on that. I did have a conversation with Cindy about it. So apparently the cost, because it was already an approved and recorded plan, was going to be significantly more than just having a regular modification. So much so that it priced itself out of making it worthwhile or feasible. My understanding, it was going to be in excess of $10,000 for him to achieve this change. And so that's the reason that they didn't.
But of the 10, none of the 10,000 had anything to do with what the township would cost, or the township.
Correct. It would be, well, the township would be part of it, but it would have to go back through the entire process. There would have to be engineering reviews. His engineer would have to prepare something. He would have to pay to have it reviewed, have to go through Lancaster County Planning Commission, our Planning Commission, then back to the Board of Supervisors. In addition, they would need to have every resident in their sign off. And I think my understanding is he just made a judgment call that the time, money, and expense was not going to make it feasible.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the manager's report? Okay, hearing none. Any questions or comments from the audience on the manager's report? Okay, any from Zoom?
No, there's not.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 7:25. I think that's a record.
Very well, maybe. I may write. Yeah, that's a good record.
I kind of got the gist of it from.
Nice night.
Yeah, I that.
And it's only gonna be a week to get songs. So I gotta decide what. Trying to make one Hampton.